Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob.
It sounds like to me that our conversation is almost right on spot right now. So
Yeah, it does.
Right. Popular with the ladies.
just to get used to
Fucking
it.
A.
Yeah, fucking A back at you. Yeah, totally.
Right.
This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. You know, when I was thinking about it, we should probably introduce, because I had one person say they couldn't figure out which one of us was which.
All right.
I'm Bill, and you are?
I am Mike. How you doing? What the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? Oh, wait, wrong podcast.
Yeah, so sooner or later you guys will recognize our voices. He's the bald bearded guy on the scrawny one. So, and we'll figure out. You guys can figure out all that stuff. So, but yeah, we had a little pre-show conversation, and once again had some technical difficulties. Mike has a new mic.
I do.
Mike has a new mic and headphones, so I actually think I think we're both. We'll sound a little bit better. So.
Yeah,
So I think we should be good. But all right. So first of all, I have some stats from the last week, and then we're going to get to an individual that contacted us that we have on our sponsor page. I'll read something about that person.
Nice.
But first of all, stats. So as of, and actually we were at 411. We got one more follower in the time that it took for you to eat your food. So we now have 412 followers on Instagram.
Nice.
From our podcast page, 232 individual plays on the podcast itself. What do you think is because it breaks it down by episode too, what do you think is the most popular, the most plays on an episode so far?
The last one? Are we building?
That one. Yeah, that one actually has, in the last, 7 days or 6 days, that has 27. But the most popular one so far is episode 4, which has, with our first 30 days, has 39 plays. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about that one a little bit last week, so I'm wondering if people went back to it. But one way or the other, obviously, hey, keep doing what you're doing, man.
Right. Hit that play button.
Right. So last week I had mentioned the website had 150 visits. I was wrong on that. It was like 130 or 132 because I had looked a couple of days after that. But we've had 157 visits now to the website. And then what they're calling events. So once somebody gets to it, how many pages or whatever. So 340 events. So people are clicking around the website, which is cool. And
Absolutely.
then our largest age group is still the 45 to 59. That's at 55%. We have 1% in like the 18 to 24, or less than. I'm sorry, and then 28 to 34 right now at 13%. But we're still popular with the chicks, though. So where do you think we are now with the ladies?
With the ladies, I don't know. Have we gotten up to 62?
Higher. It's 66%.
Ooh. 3 more percentage points.
I know. Exactly. 3 more percent, and we can focus on that. We'll lose probably 20% of them. So
right.
But yeah, it was, I don't know. It still baffles me. I mean, keep listening. I think it's awesome. But still, I think about it and I listen back to some of the things that we say, and I'm like, damn, really? Percent. But hey, one way or the other, I mean, I see that we're getting activity on Facebook. We're getting activity on Instagram. Obviously, the 400 followers just hit today. So, I mean, now we're at 412. So, there's been like 13 people that followed us on Instagram just as of today, which is
nice.
Everything. And I know I keep saying it. Mike said the same thing. We had such low expectations with this, and it's even though we joke about zero expectations, I mean, it's exceeded anything that we could have ever thought about, or even imagined. So it's fun, and we're getting involved in a couple more things, which is where this next little piece comes from. And I'm going to talk about the Sober Grid thing. So, and just so everyone knows, I'm not gonna bash Sober Grid. I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you what happened. And honestly, I think there's a lesson to be learned, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. But I'll get to that in a minute. But in that, I had posted about it, and there was an individual that was also a member, I think, of Sober Grid, and he said something of it. Oh, surprise! But if you're looking for a new place to, like, a new hangout type of thing, visit this individual. And her Instagram handle is the AF Mom, and that's her website too. But I'll get into that in a second. So, of course, first of all, and I was messaging back and forth with her because I said, once I looked at it, I'm like, hey, I said, do you want to connect? Let's do a cross promote, anything like that. And she was all so I mentioned her on our page a couple of times, put her on our website. She's on our sponsor page now on our website, and I'll explain that again in a second. And I told her that I'd go ahead, just give me a quick write up. She's in the process of building this thing that she's doing, and it's a sober chat room. So, which is cool. And other thing too is she's a young person, so maybe this will help with our
skew that demographic younger. Nice,
right? Exactly. So maybe that's where that less than 1% of that younger group is coming into play now. But I guess we'll figure it out. So I did. I connected with her. I set up a sponsor page on our website. Please, two things with that. If visit our website, obviously all of our content is on there. But the sponsor page, what we'd like to do, so far there's this individual's link on there, and I'm going to keep it there. And there's also a link to the Keating Center where Mike and I went through the sober living facility. And I did a little write up on there. Obviously they do take donations. Visit their website if you're in the Cleveland area. If you need help, obviously they're there. But one way or the other, it's a really good, solid sober living community. And all seriousness, we owe them everything. We owe the Keating Center everything, and that means a lot to us. So once again, that's going to stay up there. If anyone else, and I put this on Instagram also, is interested in appearing on that page, we will do it for free. We're not looking at making money off of that. Basically, all that we're asking is if we put you on our website, mention us on whatever thing you're doing. The only rule, if there is one, is got to be recovery related, and we're looking at building things as a group. So you help us, we'll help you. That's what we're looking to do. So
absolutely.
So, and I mentioned a little bit to that to Mike before. Some of these things I kind of jump into on my own, which Mike and I know each other well enough. So I'm not jumping into anything that he wouldn't agree with anyhow, but usually I do try to, I try to keep you up to speed. So.
No, I appreciate it.
No, I know. When it comes to the social media stuff, kids, it's I'm handling that, but it's just one of the parts that I not only enjoy, but one of the things that I just ended up taking on when we started it. So, all right, the person that had contacted us, and please go ahead and visit. I'll have her website address on here for you. Visit her on Instagram, but I'm just going to read her write-up as she wrote it. And like I said, feel free to visit her either on our website or on Instagram, and her website directly. The link is on our sponsor page. So here we go. Who remembers ICQ, AOL? Well, those are kind of out, but Slack is in. If you're looking for a booze-free hangout, check out Sober Slack, created by the AF Mom on Instagram. The high school-themed supportive space has 8 chat rooms and welcomes everyone. For more information and the invite, check out theafmom.com. That's THEAFMOM.com. And here's the funny part. We're messaging back and forth, and true story. I said to her, I'm like, hey, just so you know, I said, do you want me to read the letters or do you want me to read the words? Because I'm like, our podcast, we can say whatever we want. It's explicit if you want. She's like, that stands for alcohol free.
Trust me, my mind went for as fuck as well.
Right. And so 2 things. I learned something because I see this all over Instagram, and I'm like, yeah, everyone's ass fuck, and I'm like, okay, how stupid. So anyhow, it's the alcohol free mom. So THEAF mom.com. And that's got links to everything, including this little chat space. I popped into it too. It's pretty cool. And I
Yeah.
think the last message that I got from her, she had like 18 people that were members. So she's looking at building. We're looking at building. It seemed like a
Right.
perfect thing to, to kind of come together on. And once again, in messaging back and forth, she seems really cool. She's a recovery individual, and a mom. And, I read a little bit about her story and stuff. So by all means, visit her. She's supporting us. We want to support her too. So,
Yeah.
all right. All right. So you want to talk about Sober Grid here for a minute?
Sure, why not? Again, I'm a Luddite. I have no idea. Half the stuff you said in her little write-up, I have no idea what they are. And I've never been to Sober Grid, so let me know what's going on with that.
All right. So, and it's Sober Grid is an app. And honestly, the way that I found it, oh God, I can't remember if it's before or after I moved back to Wisconsin. For sure afterwards, because there's two people here locally that I met on Sober Grid that I've hung out with, that I'm still friends with. And they're women that I met on there, sober women. And the original way I found them, I was looking for sober dating apps. So no secret, I want to date just like everyone else. And I was looking to date sober people,
Sure.
So I found this, and all said and done on that, they don't, and they get really, really pissed off if anyone tries to do any sort of like dating type of things on there now, and they're just really hypersensitive, which got kind of weird to me, because it seemed like you get sober people together. It seemed like a great opportunity, not for people to be pigs. People can be pigs anywhere and everywhere.
Sure.
But the whole idea was you got a group of sober people, a sober community. Why not? But anyhow, that's not their thing. So, but it was, I don't know. It's a bad version of Facebook, I guess, from a technology standpoint.
All right.
And I only mean that from a technology standpoint. They've done a lot in the last 6 or 7 years, and I've been around it for a long time.
Yeah.
So they've done a lot, and it's a little bit, it's great, but I mean, they certainly don't have, Zuckerberg money or anything like that. So but it's not clunky.
Who does?
Yeah, exactly. It's a little clunky, but it's still, the idea was to begin with, I think was behind it, have a sober place where people can talk about recovery, all that.
Right.
So to begin with, I post on there every once in a while, and over the last probably, 3-4 years, it's become part of my morning routine. I do my readings. I would do a screenshot of one every single morning as part of my routine. I would post a sober reading on there, which quite honestly, sometimes it's hard to find sober things on there because it's turned into an app of memes. A lot of the memes that I post on Facebook, a lot of the ones that you see me post, Mike, on Facebook, I've gotten from there. So some of the wicked and raunchy memes I've gotten that I enjoy, I've gotten from there.
Right.
So I've gone on there. I go on there twice a day. Well, I did. I go on in the morning to post, and then I go on at night just to do kind of a recap reading, and quite honestly, to grab a meme or two if I found them. So a couple years ago, maybe 2, I popped off of there for a couple of months because what they were doing is they were getting active on Instagram, and they were just going to start openly inviting people to the app. And they put the question out to the community, and they're like, how does everyone feel about this? Is everyone okay with it? And they'll like message if you have an issue or a question or how you feel. And I was like, I'm against it, because I was thinking this is supposed to be a safe place for people to talk about. I got my picture on there. I don't use my real name, but I was concerned about the anonymity part of it.
Right.
So I ended up dropping off, and I explained why. And one of the individuals that was messaging me starts quoting me shit from the big book about this and this, and this is what anonymity is. And at that point, again, probably 2-3 years ago, I'm like, dude, I've been sober for like 9 years. I said, you don't have to read the big book to me. And I wasn't trying to be a dick, but I'm just like, seriously.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's like, you do you. I'm not going to do this anymore and deactivate my account. So they deactivated, and after a while, I'm like, you know what? It's a month or so, and I did. I felt like I was missing it because I enjoyed that posting on there.
Yeah.
So I went in, set it up again. And I know both times I logged in under my email address, because you can do email, you could do, I think, through Facebook. And I'm like, I don't want to log in through
Right.
Facebook.
Right.
And then possibly through Google or something. I don't know. But I know I did it by my email. And done. I'm on there for the last couple of years doing my thing, and nothing really changed on that. But as far as the memes and all that stuff, and I just used it for what I was using it for: post and then steal memes.
Right.
So I think it was Sunday or Monday, and I can't remember what day it was, but I went to log on and it got the login screen. So I have my phone save all my passwords. So I hit it, password doesn't work. Try it again, password doesn't work. I do a search and find my passwords, and there's two things with my email address, like two entries to SoberGrid. So I'm like, let me try this one. Same deal. I look at what the password is. I'm like, that is a password that I've used.
Sure.
So I do the forgot the password. They say put in your email, and they're like, your email doesn't exist. So I'm like, exactly. I tried it a couple of times. I'm like, well, this is weird. I'm like, I'll look at it later. But I'm connected and following SoberGrid now on Instagram. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to message SoberGrid on Instagram, tell them what my deal is, try to figure out the problem.
Right.
So I message them, and the first thing I get back is, well, you were this is the first thing it says, your account was probably inactivated because you've been posting things about a business item or another type of business or an outside business. So I'll reactivate you, but you have to stop doing that. And they're talking the promos that I do, because I've been posting our promos on there.
Sure.
So I message a guy back, and I'm like, okay, nobody told me this. He's like, well, it's rules and this and that, and you violated them. And I said, but still, nobody told me this. So back and forth, and I'm like, whatever, dude. Finally, I'm just, because it irritated me. I'm like, why wouldn't you say something, if that was the case? So I told the guy, I'm like, he goes, I'll activate you again. I'm like, nope, don't do it. I said, you realize I have a podcast, right? And I said, you just gave me some material. And he's like, wait, what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, stick around, bud. Listen in, And I say, bud, it sounds like a dude. It just does.
Right.
So I left it be. Later on that day, Monday, Tuesday, whenever it was, sends me a message, and he's like, oh, you have two logins, so you're logging into the wrong account. And he said, and I said, well, it's still not recognizing my email. And he's like, if you had activated your account or deactivated your account, you would have a new email. I said, no, I didn't. He said, you would have to. I said, I did not. I didn't. I know I didn't, So again, this back and forth. And I'm like, whatever this is, and he's like, by the way, and this is after I already posted on Instagram. So he already saw me slam him on Instagram. So then he comes back, I just said this was this. I didn't say that's what happened. But he brought it up right away, So clearly me posting our promos was a problem. And again, I go back to the fact that nobody told me.
Right.
So all said and done, I'm like, it's fine. I'm kind of washing my hands of it. And I said, just stick around. This gives me more to talk about. And he's like, what are you going to talk about? The fact that you logged into the wrong account? And I just left it be. And I'm like, okay, fuck knuckle. I got you. Yeah. I see where you're coming from. So I'm at this point, I'm my normal, probably old self, myself now, and I'm fucking irritated. And then I thought about 15, 20 minutes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to talk about this. But then I realized where this is more of a bigger problem. This, number one, has nothing to do with me. I mean, if they did inactivate me, or deactivate me, which I think they did, and now they're trying to cover it up. Fine, don't, but because here's the thing, I do not need SoberGrid to stay sober. I don't.
Right. Yep.
And it was a part of my routine, and I'll be honest with you, I miss it because it was a piece of my routine every morning.
Right.
And it was just something I did, and I was trying to do, if you want to say the right thing, I don't know, but I was posting a recovery thing. Not every once in a while I would post memes also, but specifically every single day without fail for years, I would post a reading. I did that every day,
Right.
So, but I do know for a fact, I know for a fact, because I've heard people write about it, post about it. There are people on SoberGrid, even before the pandemic, that was their one and only place, their one and only connection for sobriety. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so then I started to think about it. I'm like, because at that point I was thinking, man, I couldn't stay sober on an app. But what if that was but it's me. What if it's somebody else that's what they do? I don't care. Do you? If that keeps you sober, I don't have anything to
Right.
say about it.
Right.
So then I start thinking about, what if this was somebody else that really needed that? And now it's like you and me walking up to an AA meeting when we were early in recovery and having the fucking doors locked, and you're like, well, what do I do? And having nobody, they're like, we don't know what happened. You can't come in, So I started thinking about that much, and and maybe that's an exaggeration, but I don't think so. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought about. Because again, and seriously, I don't need Sober Grid to stay sober, but what if somebody does? And then the other thing I thought about, here's the other thing I thought about was, whatever, if somebody from Sober Grid is listening to this, because then I start thinking about it from a business standpoint and who represents like the company I work for and all those sort of things. And I'm like, Sober Grid probably needs to get a new representative that handle their social media. That's my opinion. Because he and I got into a pissing match, and I get him, but I mean, he and I got into a pissing match, and he represents Sober Grid. So all these different thoughts came in, but the main thing on top of all that, however they want to run I have no idea what their mission statement is, if they have one. I don't know what the community rules are. I know they don't like
clearly.
Right. I don't know. Right. But I know they don't like people dating on there, which is fine. Whatever it is that their point is, I don't know exactly. But I just thought that was weird, because I thought, what if somebody needs it? It's a bad way to do, and it is. They're a business, And on top of that, a couple of people had posted on the post that I had on Instagram. They're like, why would they not want somebody to promote a sober podcast? I'm like, I don't know. I said, that's their choice, and they're looking at it as a business. And if we were in a position right now to run this thing as a business, I would have approached them, and probably a lot of people, and maybe we will, approach people to partner with them in some sort of venture, but I don't look at this as a business. This is us talking, sober shit and having some fun. So I would understand that if we were a for-profit type of thing out there to try to compete with them or whatever. I get it, from a business standpoint, but that's not what we're doing, So that was the other weird thing. But here's what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to put this I'll end up posting this on Instagram too. If anyone is interested in an app, and this is another sober app that I found, again, a few years ago, it's called Lucid, Loosid. So again, Lucid, Loosid. Now, I joined it. Again, it has the same type of thing, but it's more robust. They do have a dating area. They have links to meetings. They also have where you can post your stories. It's chat stuff. It's kind of cool. They got like this whole big realm of things. But on top of that other podcast that I listened to, they interviewed the guy, the founder, the guy who runs Lucid. Number one, dude's got a great story. He's got recovery time. And his idea is what I was just talking about. He goes, I'm willing to partner with anyone. He goes, if they're in recovery, he goes, reach out to me, man. He goes, we're all working on this together. And that's kind of where, really cool. So again, I have no affiliation. We have no affiliation with them at all. But if you're looking for an all around app with a dude that's got good sobriety time plus a great attitude, and again, it's Lucid, Lossid, and it's free to join. I joined. And again, I'm not getting paid for this, but the dude's cool. So
nice.
Yeah. But so that was the little, again, Sober Grid thing. And like I said, I didn't really want to bash them up too much. Seriously, the more I thought about it, I'm just like, man, it was just I don't know, kind of a bad on a business level, but on top of that, thinking more about somebody who might actually need them, for recovery. But just weird stuff. So
Very.
It was the Sober Grid, the original one, the original post it's been the top post on our Instagram page from day one. So it's the number one. But I also tagged them in it, which I'll do again, because I think that's how we pulled in so many people on that post, because I actually tagged them. So I think I'll do that again. But
nice.
All right. So next week I'm going to be in Cleveland. So I don't know if we're going to try to record on, probably not Friday, because you want to go. I'd like to go to a meeting on Friday.
Right. I figured you would.
Yeah, I figured you would too, because that's a big day for you. And then we've got an anniversary. Both of us have our anniversaries coming up this week. So that's every year we get together. When I was in Cleveland, I mean, obviously we were there in the same city, but with the exception of the pandemic year, which is 2020, which kind of
Right.
sucked because that was our 10 year.
Yeah.
But every other year we've gotten together and we just hang out and go to a meeting and get our coins and do all this stuff. So it's a big deal. But yeah, so we'll be in Cleveland actually together, and maybe on Saturday, I would guess, have some time to maybe record this episode live from Cleveland, right?
We will do that. Yeah.
so the other thing too that this is always a weird time. I mean, it's only a few days away from my anniversary, a week away from yours. It's always an exciting time, but it's also it's weird. I still get nervous coming up to an anniversary, and I don't know why, but it always gives me kind of a chance to reflect and stuff like that. So I was thinking about, do you remember? And I remember a couple of things about our first anniversary. And do you anything stick out from both of our 1 year anniversaries for you? I mean, anything at all?
Honestly, I don't remember much at all about it.
Really?
I really don't. It was bloody 11 years ago, man. I can hardly remember yesterday.
That's a good.
I mean, it was, I remember it was clearly significant. It was the longest I had been sober since I was, 9 years old. But yeah, I remember the feeling of pride and excitement and, pride, ego, all that good stuff. Cause I'm still working on that crap. But yeah, nothing really. God, I don't even remember like what day of the week it was, or because that would probably rattle some brain cells. But
that's a good point. I don't remember. I guess I don't remember the day of the week. I just remember being. You know what? It was either for me. It was a Keating Center meeting, because that was the one thing that I remember. For my anniversary, you and I, we always sat at that front table closest to the podium and stuff like that. Do you remember that front table we'd sit at?
Sure.
So it was you and me, and I don't remember who else, but then one of our other guy we knew was sitting across the table from us. So in most meetings that, for people who've been in meetings, you know how this goes. At some point in the meeting, they usually celebrate, obviously, time. Certain meetings, it's only a year and more, and some meetings it's months up to that point. But whatever, it got to the point where I could stand up and announce my year. So I did, and you get the typical clapping and stuff like that. It was great, like you said, the ego part of it, and I was fucking proud of it.
Oh, absolutely.
So I sit down, and I remember you were sitting right next to me, and you're reaching into your pocket, and then our other friend from across the table sets a coin in front of me. And
I do remember that.
Okay, so, and I'm not going to name names because it's unimportant, but then you look over at me and you just kind of handed me this coin, and I'm like, because I said, hey, thank you to this person that was in front of me, but you and I had gotten pretty close at that point. So I mean, it was meaningful, and I still have that coin. That's my 1 year coin in my frame. So I got my frame with all my coins, and it's the coin that you gave me. I still have it because it meant something to me. But I just remember that the look on your face, you're just kind of like,
right.
Because you had it all planned out, let me step back a little bit again. So for everyone out there, okay, just go on the website, look at Mike's picture, and then look at my picture. Forget the fact that I've got moist on my shirt, because that makes me look less appealing, maybe. But
or more.
Thank you. We're popular with the ladies.
That's right.
But so seriously, the judge a book by its cover type of thing. A lot of times, whether it's right or wrong, if you and I joke about this all the time, that somebody might look at me and like, oh, he looks like a fine young fellow. And they look at you like, what the fuck?
Right.
Here's the thing. And I mean, Mike thinks about things more than I do. He's more, he's certainly has more forethought and thinks ahead about things far more than I ever do. He'll be the
more forehead too.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do. You got a whole lot of forehead. So he's actually in my opinion, he's a far better human being than me.
Oh God.
And this is, well, here's a couple of examples. Number one, I just told that story. This dude had this planned out to give me a coin. I never
Mhm.
given him a coin for his anniversary. Never. It never even
Right.
crossed my mind. Now,
Mhm.
he also gave me a gift. Do you remember what gift you gave me for my 1 year anniversary?
Yeah, I got you a big book cover.
Right. And it wasn't just, like the thing you made in school with like some paper mess on it. This is
Macaroni and glue.
Right. It wasn't this. It's a nice black leather cover for my big book with another coin inside I can't remember what the saying is, but another, recovery based coin on it. It's nice.
Right.
And a little thing on top. I think the Serenity prayers on the front.
Right.
So, and again, I never thought twice about getting him a gift. And remember, he and I are not only good friends, and we were pretty close at that point, but we're living together. Never occurred to me. So, of course, after that, I'm like, well, fuck, he got me a gift. And I'm like, I guess I got to get him something. So it comes up, and his anniversary's 3-4 days later. So his anniversary's coming up, and all I could say was, so what do you want? And do you remember what I bought you?
Oh yeah, you got me a very nice rolling machine, cigarette rolling machine.
Okay, so
and I needed it.
He did. He it's a cigarette rolling machine because he used to roll his own cigarettes. But So here's the deal, though. He got me something in honor of me trying to save my life. I got him something to kill him. Okay,
that's right.
Something to help kill him.
Yep.
A cigarette roller. It's the equivalent of me buying him a gun, and he just had to put the bullets in.
Right. Yeah.
So that's an example of the two different type of people we are, and that's a true story.
It is. And that cigarette rolling machine got donated to the Keating Center when I finally got a decent job and could buy pre-rolled cigarettes again.
Right. But it just I'll never forget. That's the story of the coin is the one that really cracks me up. But but yeah, that one. And when did you lead, or where did you lead for the first time? And I know where mine was at the Keating Center, but I've talked enough. So where did you lead?
No, yeah, mine was at the Keating Center as well. Yeah, it was a Thursday night meeting. It was probably a week or so after you did.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that one I do remember. My first lead was at the Keating Center, and of course I had to get my fifth step done. Otherwise I couldn't lead, according to my sponsor at the time. And so I did. I went and went and had a little talk with a priest, because again, that was suggested to me. And went and had a little talk with the priest, and then I got to go do my first lead about a week or so later. Of course, I waited till the last minute to get that fifth step done, but
yeah. Well, I did too, because I was supposed to. I had because you and I went to the same priest, because he was, I think, God, I can't remember. It might have been my sponsor that gave me his name, or somehow we got it from the same group of guys. But same deal. I put everything off, and I had it set. I had my fifth step set to be done the day before my anniversary. So it would have been the 17th of April. And it was that year was Easter week. And, he's a priest. So he ended up, I got a call from one of the people from the office, like, yes, he's a little busy this week with Easter, so we're going to have to postpone it. I'm like, no, because same deal, because I had so much to say, and I know you did too. We both wanted to get up there and, and spill our guts up at a podium, because, we had a lot to say at 1 year.
That's right. We've been sitting there quiet for a year, man. We were ready to go.
Right. Well, and so two things too, and like tell that story about the whole sitting quiet, but also talk about no fronts, because that's the other thing that popped into my head. So I'm like, can we even talk about our anniversary? But talk about that sitting for a year, because I think that was important. I think it is important.
It is, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not in the big book anywhere, but the group of guys that we ran with, And it was it was Marty too, man. It was a kind of an unwritten rule at the Keating Center is you don't comment, you don't talk, you don't do anything till you get your first year. Which I'm glad, because, well, 9 times out of 10, when somebody stands up with 2 weeks and they have a comment, it's usually not all that good. More proof that these guys that came before us knew what the hell they were doing. So yeah, we didn't comment, we didn't talk, we didn't do anything. Well, I mean, we did things, but you don't comment, you don't talk, you don't have anything to say. And actually, I was in a Facebook group, sobriety recovery one, and I brought that one up. This a couple years ago, and I got some shit.
Really?
Oh yeah. The people were like, well, I said something like, you don't have anything I want. You don't have anything I want to hear. And, people were just upset, man. They were, well, the newcomer's the most important person at the meeting. And I understand that, but they don't have anything to say. And they sure as hell don't have anything I want.
And so let's step back and just pause there for a second. And here's the thing: the way that Mike and I always say that the way that we were raised up in AA, because the way we were raised in recovery is by old school, no nonsense dudes, and
right.
But these were guys that had. I mean, our sponsor at the time that he was sponsoring us had probably 3-4 years when he started.
Right.
Well, no, probably 5 or 6, something like that. He's easily a handful of years ahead of us. We're close to that. But whatever it is, 3 to 5 years at the time. But the people that some of these main groups we went to, we're talking people with, 15, 20, 30 years.
Right. Right.
And sometimes more than that. So these guys had already walked the path, and we respected them and we listened to them. Now, the other thing too is that so many people, and if you're not into AA, I get it. I don't care what anyone does to stay sober. I'm just saying what we did, and why I think it worked for he and I, because at the time, I mean, two of us together, I mean, we're both kind of that same cloth, right? I mean, we're egotists. We felt like we knew everything and we didn't, and we needed to be knocked down a few pegs and realize that we weren't the center of, attention and all that stuff. And that's what they were teaching us. They were teaching us humility. They weren't trying to put us down.
No, they weren't humiliating us. They were making us humble.
Exactly. And and people confuse those words a lot. If somebody's trying to humble somebody, they're not being mean to you,
Right.
But again, that worked for me. And that was honestly, that's the first time in my life that sort of treatment ever worked on me. I'd usually, flip up the middle finger and fuck you, dude. And I'd walk the other way. That's what I always did. And I don't know why I didn't do that. I don't know why I stayed. Maybe I had no place else to go. That's true. Maybe I was done. I don't know. Maybe I felt like I needed that. I don't know. Whatever happened, I don't care. It worked, or at least to this day. To this day, it's working.
Absolutely.
And I never felt, I always felt, and it's a weird thing to say, even at that time, I didn't realize it, but looking back, I always felt loved. I always felt cared for by these guys, and I knew they weren't trying to hurt me.
Right.
I'd get pissed off certain times at people, and I know you did too, but nobody was trying to hurt us. So, a lot of times Mike and I will speak up like that, especially when you're talking about a Facebook group and people don't agree with us, and fine, I'm guessing that a lot of the people that are listening, especially if you didn't come up in the same path, maybe you don't agree with what we're saying, but don't discount what we went through, and we're not going to discount what you went through. We're all on the same path is really what it comes down to. We were just taught differently, so, but anyhow, so sorry to interrupt. It just made me think about that. But the no fronts thing, and this always came up. You're the first person I'd ever heard that from. But also there was, so talk about what that means, and then what used to happen in meetings that used to drive us nuts.
Well, clearly no fronts is a drug reference. You get fronted dope. You don't have the money, but front me the dope, and clearly I'll use it, and I'll get you the money later. And with time, there are no fronts. We need to earn it. We need to earn every second. I do. And there are no fronts in Alcoholics Anonymous. You got to earn it every day. So that's no fronts, because in meetings, people will say, it'll be a Sunday night meeting and they'll say, on Wednesday, I'll have 9 months. Okay, well, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. Yeah. So the first time that Mike said that to me, I didn't know what he was talking about, but I do it to everyone now. And I did it to, my favorite little friend on Instagram, the chick from California, she's committed, and I hope you listen. I hope she's listening to this, because she committed once the kids are out of school. It's summertime and things calm down a little bit. I told her I'd stop bothering her, but this is just a little bit of a bother. but no, she is already committed to coming on. She's going to talk with us, so
cool.
I'm looking forward to it. I've never talked to her before, but we exchange all this shit, and I'm telling you, dude, she's like our counterpart. She'll post some shit, and I'm like, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I told her just the other day, I don't even know what she posted about. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I said, I think the same thing, or the same thing happened to me, or it's weird. She's just right with us. I think it'll be a great conversation. But
nice.
When I first got on Instagram, and again, I'm just trying to connect with, anyone I can that's sober. And she was one of the, I don't know if one of the first people, but certainly in that first group, because it was through the other name that I had to begin with. And then she did follow me over to our page. But she had a birthday coming up, and, something like, oh, tomorrow I'll be 39. I think she's 39. And I said, well, I commented, I just said, no fronts. And she commented, she's like, no fronts. What does that mean? So I explained it. And then she thought it was funny. And she's like, well, it's just my birthday. It's not my anniversary. I'm like, okay, so I'll give you that one. But so now it's it's kind of a joke. But so I brought that up. There's not many people that know about that. I didn't know about it, but I think it's funny. But yeah, that happened a couple years ago, probably more than that, 3 years ago now, probably, because I figure 2 years ago was pandemic year. But coming up to my anniversary, it was the same type of thing, where I was at a Friday meeting, and my anniversary was on the next, it could have been Saturday, it could have been Monday, whatever it was. It was after that date. And my sponsor at the time, as I was walking out, he's like, oh yeah, he goes, happy birthday for Monday. I'm like, it's not Monday yet. This is my sponsor I said this to. And he's like, no, but he goes, I won't see you. I'm like, dude, text me. I'm like, right. And he's like, no, I just wanted to say it in person. I'm like, no. I said, nope. No offense, but I do not accept it. Talk to me on Monday. I'm like, seriously, it's like a paranoia. It's like somebody throwing me a hot rock. I'm like, I ain't touching that fucking thing now.
Right.
Now, do I think I'm gonna drink between now and Monday? No, but I don't have the time that we have coming up, and we just don't do it. And even this weekend, I'm sure Mom and Kathy are going to give me my coin, but I was telling them, I'm like, I put it in a card, put it in a box, put it in a bag. I put it in my bag. I take it home and I open it up Monday morning. I'm just very, very adamant about that, because it's what we were taught, and I agree with that, wholeheartedly. So yeah, the fronts thing was, it's funny, but it is something we live by, Right. Well, and I think it's important.
I mean, a big part of recovery is we don't live in the past and we don't live in the future. We live in the present. We live in the now. And I need to earn this stuff every day.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, no fronts, man.
Yeah, no fronts, man. So that's other quick thing, and with listening to this other podcast, I mean, every once in a while, there's a lot of great ideas, and I do. I mean, I seriously enjoy listening to it. I do it every night, and I know I've said it. It's like a mini meeting for me. It's just been really good for me to listen to that stuff. But she's every once in a while. And actually, there's it's kind of, well, a couple of different things. So she has a base in AA, and she talks about that. She's not, I think she's probably now 3.5, maybe coming up on 4 years sober. Because I'm listening to podcasts from like 2 years ago. It's like this would have been pandemic time, like when it started, the episodes that I'm on right now, which is kind of weird. But it's interesting because I'm hearing her talk to people about how they're leading into this. So it's this whole, I'm interested to hear how people got through the whole pandemic,
Sure.
So it adds that whole new level of that. But I don't think she actively goes to like meetings and stuff now, but that's where she got her start. Steps, sponsor, the whole bit. So she can kind of flip one way or the other to, I'm doing this thing now, whereas this is where I got my base, and she'll have people on with different things. But one of the questions that she always asks people, which I think is interesting, is, that if, and she says it always this way, and this is from the big book, if drinking is but a symptom, she'll always ask people, did you ever get down to the root of why you were drinking? And a lot of what people are talking about is trauma. And she talks about like big trauma versus little trauma. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you witnessed, somebody die in front of you, or that you were, mentally or physically abused or anything like that. She's like, she talks about maybe you were a product of divorce. Maybe you were, some came from an alcoholic family, all these different things. And I started thinking about it. And that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, I know what my answer is, but do you think, for you, because you and I have never talked about this, because I never thought about it. Do you think that anything that you drank over was based on any trauma, or even if it's small items like that? And again, you and I have never talked about it, so I was curious to hear your answer.
Well, when I did my 4-step, my answer is in the big book. There's a line in the big book that says, the root of our troubles is selfish. I'm paraphrasing it. I'm doing it actually backwards, but the root of our troubles is selfishness and self-centeredness. That's the root of my troubles. That's the root of my drinking. That's the root of all my problems. An unhealthy focus on me. And that manifested itself. It was a symptom, drinking and drugging. Yeah, of course I had traumas in my life. Product of divorce. My mother was an alcoholic. She was psychologically and physically abusive. Blah, 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 blah. Poor me. No, I drank because I wanted to feel good. And I want to feel good all the time. I want to be comfortable all the time. Me, selfishness and self-centeredness. I can blame my use on tons of stuff. I've had a bad life. I've had a good life. I've had a medium life. I've had all kinds of life, but the bottom line is I drank because I wanted to feel good. I used drugs because I wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel different. I wanted to be comfortable. Me. That's my problem.
And honestly, that's pretty much what I thought your answer would be, but I don't know. Well, I know for a fact you and I have never used that word in a sentence and talked about it, so I was curious because I thought that maybe, it's, if nothing else, it's an interesting topic because I thought about it the same thing. And I'm, what the weird part is that not in those exact words, but along that same road is what I thought, because when I got sober, and I didn't want to get sober, I was mad at fucking everyone and fucking everything, and I drank on a Tuesday when I was upset and it was raining, and I drank on a Wednesday when it was sunny and I was having the best time of my life. None of that mattered. And there was a point in my life when I tried to pinpoint, well, more than one point, I tried to pinpoint my drinking and my problems on, other people. And whether it was my ex-wives, whether it was a family member, whether it was a friend, whether it was an employer, I always tried to pin that on somebody else. And I had so many resentments against everyone. I mean, everyone, people who loved and cared about me and still do. I had resentments. And and I'm not going to talk about specifics because those sort of things, it's just so everyone knows, I'm more than happy to talk about anything that happened to me and anything that I did. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to talk about somebody else's story, or I'm not going to bring about somebody else's story into mine just to get people to listen. I don't believe in that, because Mike and I are we believe in this. And I was telling somebody this the other day, that we were talking about something, and we were talking about the four absolutes, which we should do an episode on that. That'll be easy enough.
Right.
But the one thing that I remember you saying it, but you heard it from somebody else, and I don't remember who you heard it from, but you said honesty without love is cruelty. You know, and do you remember who you heard that from? Because I know you said it to me once. We were talking about something. You repeated it from somebody, but do you
I
remember
don't know, some drunk.
Okay, so same thing.
Right.
It's yet another thing that we've stolen, but it's true. If you think about it, if honesty is the number one thing in my life and Mike's life, and something we were taught, but you've got to have that love, that honest caring behind what you're saying, or you're going to hurt somebody. It's cruel.
Right.
So my point to that is, I don't need to bring other people into my story just to be honest about it. But the point is that I had so many resentments, but Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps, the people, everyone, for me and for Mike, brought both of us through so we could deal with. And here's the other thing I thought about, because again, I'm a child of divorce. My dad was a raging alcoholic. All these different things. I had, like you said, I've lived a good life. I've lived a bad life.
Right.
I've been divorced twice. I've all these different things. I've had financial troubles. I've had women troubles. I've had all this different shit in my life.
Yep.
But the thing of it is that I had to figure out, and I just needed to be a better person, and figuring out because we were taught there's always our part in a situation, which is tough.
Yes,
that's a hard part to swallow. If somebody walks up to you on the street and punches you in the face, somehow, some way, we were taught that we have a part in that. I don't know what it is. Maybe I shouldn't have been there that day, But the only way for me to get over those resentments was to find my part in it. And I've done that. I've forgiven myself. I've been forgiven by other people, and I stopped blaming people. And that was, once I got rid of all that stuff, then I've lost that urge and that reason to drink anymore, because I don't have to cover the shit up. I can feel it,
Right.
So that's the thing. And I know there's people out there, and I'm not trying to minimize trauma, because I know there's people out there that not only that I know personally that have dealt with trauma, that are probably listening to us that have dealt with it. If you've had trauma, deal with it, man. Whatever the thing is, deal with it. I was just kind of curious to get that out between Mike and I, because there's different levels of that healing in that. For me, it was resentments, and me was, being selfish, and I drank. I don't know. It wasn't even like, because how many times did we hear in leads where people said, I felt out of place, and I was the square peg in the round hole, and I sought out people that were like me. I never did that. I just ended up with people that drank, so it just, was I gravitated toward, or did I gravitate towards that? Probably, but it wasn't really conscious, so.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, I was selfish, self-centered, angry, had no coping skills, all those sort of things. But yeah, it was just something that you and I had never talked about. So I thought it'd be an interesting topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, the working the steps, that eighth step, a big part of it is forgiving people that hurt you. When you're making that list of the people that you hurt, you also need to forgive the people that hurt you. Realize they've got problems, realize they're fallible, that they man, they didn't mean to hurt you. But forgive them.
Your mic's cutting out a little bit.
Is it?
Yep.
Is it better?
Yeah, that's better. It was like when we were testing it before you started. I started to lose you. I think you're back.
I think it's my splitter, and I think I need to get another one.
Yeah. So you said splitter, not slitter, right?
Right. Or shitter.
Or shitter. Slitter.
Right.
Barely know her.
Right. Shitter. I'm not German.
How do we go from talking about such a deep topic to shitters?
Because that's what we do.
Exactly. That's the beauty of having our own thing here. But yeah, so I mean, seriously, it just I don't know. I thought it was interesting to at least kind of dive into, and just one of the things I just hadn't thought about it before, and I don't
Right.
feel like I don't right now at this point, and maybe that'll change over time because I mean I've evolved, you've evolved, and in
Mhm.
all these things more to be revealed, right? So
Right.
maybe 5 years from now something will come up and I'm like, man, I want to dig into this, but I'm open to it. I didn't know
Mhm.
5 years ago I'd be sitting here on a Friday night talking to you on some freaking podcast, and
Right.
realize, and actually, something that I feel that I not only want, but I need something like this. I didn't know I would need this,
Mhm.
but all those things, they happen in their own time. But for us, thankfully, they've been they've been good things that have happened in their own time for the most part, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So
And
let
one more
me.
thing
Oh, go
on the
ahead.
trauma thing. Yeah, I put it in the same category as triggers. It's an excuse.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, left to my own devices, I could rationalize and justify anything. I did. So yes, I can blame trauma. I can blame triggers. I can blame. Blame. Nope. It's all me. It's all me. I make the decisions. I make the choices. I make the choices to do what I have to do to stay away from that first one, or I don't.
Well, and that's exactly what we were talking about. That I mean, we were taught to what is our part, take responsibility for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that the biggest thing in that, as you were saying that too, with maybe think about is that we're not number one, not owed an apology from anyone that we thought we were
No.
wronged by. We're not owed an apology, neither should we, and we shouldn't expect one. And if anyone's out there trying to, whether you want to call it making amends or just kind of making your peace with people, if you go in going, I'm going to say sorry, now where's mine? You're going to get
Right.
disappointed, I'm telling you. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's people that I have made amends to that have taken or talked about their part, whether I've wanted them to or not. I've luckily never had anyone slam a door in my face or tell me to fuck off or anything like that.
Right.
I haven't had that happen, but I've had people that I feel like I was wronged by, and
Mm-hmm.
I've made amends and cleaned up that side of the street, and I'm better for it.
Yep.
If people don't like me and don't want to say I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck. I just don't,
Nope. Nope.
because I can't. Back to triggers and whatever it is. That person over there, what we were talking about in one of the episodes, that person over there, I don't care if they're mad at me, they're not going to make me drink.
Nope.
It's going to be, if I drink, it's going to be me, not anyone
Mm-hmm.
else.
Right.
So I'm just trying to think here. I had a couple other things written down here. Nothing really of any substance. So what do you got? You're obviously not going down to Indiana. I know that you got plans. You're going to see a show tomorrow, or?
I'm going to see a movie
Oh,
in
that's
an
cool.
old theater. Yeah. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's a horribly rotten, beautiful movie. Dennis Hopper all fucked up on drugs. Yeah, it's if you ever get a chance to see it, it's a masterpiece of shit.
It's a horrible masterpiece. That's awesome.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll be hanging out with family for the old
Right.
Easter. Well, I mean for tomorrow, and then half the day on Sunday. But yeah. So I think, I mean, unless you got anything else, we're slowly approaching an hour. But
We are.
I got really nothing. Yeah, nothing of any real other substance going on here. But hopefully, obviously, everyone has a good Easter weekend. Just so you know, Mike,
Yep.
and I told you I'm going to try to cut the episode itself. I may listen through just to make sure everything came out all right, but
Mm-hmm.
just cut the episode and then maybe do the promo tomorrow. But this should be up. So you guys are listening tonight. It's still, Friday evening, hopefully, or even Saturday morning. But hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful Easter and ready for you to wing it there, friend.
All right. Well, have a happy zombie Jesus Day and a Passover to the people of the tribe. And you know what? Stay sober this week. Don't hurt anybody. Don't be an asshole. And fuck off.
All right, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too. We'll see you all next week. from the
All right,
land
bye.
of Cleve.
Yes, we will be there. All right, bud.
All right,
Bye.
man. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.